Hi there, Daniel King here. It's August 10th, 2020. The topic tonight is meditation, and really all topics. That's really the only thing I talk about is meditation in these talks. So I wanted to point out to begin with that meditation is a tool. It is, and the purpose of the tool is to reduce the causes of suffering. If I'm meditating, the purpose is for me to reduce my causes of suffering, ultimately to eliminate my causes of suffering, which is another way of saying enlightenment. And so, but as a tool, it requires some preliminary understanding of, for example, if I have a drill and I want to build a bookcase, really the drill isn't going to do me any good if I haven't done the preliminary work. I have to have thought about what's the purpose of the bookcase, what's the function, the capacity, what am I going to put on it, think about the raw materials, all of that stuff. If I haven't done all of that, then the drill isn't going to do me any good. So similarly, with meditation, it's a tool, but if I haven't done the preliminary work of contemplating the causes of suffering, then it's not going to be very effective, maybe not effective at all. And for that reason, the Buddha taught the Four Noble Truths. The first noble truth is that beings like you and I experience suffering. Suffering is, we all know what suffering is. It's physical pain, it's mental pain, emotional pain, loss, not having what we want, and so on. The second noble truth is that suffering has causes, and it's also, suffering has causes. The third noble truth is that these causes, we have control over these causes, and therefore we can reduce and ultimately eliminate the causes of suffering. The fourth noble truth is the path to liberation, which the Buddha taught, and that's the Noble Eightfold Path. It's a variety of different practices, including meditation. Meditation is one of the tools in the toolbox. It's not the only one, but it's an important one. So I want to back up to the second noble truth, because really, second and third are really the ones where you have to spend a lot of time initially. So looking at the causes of suffering, last week, if you heard my talk last week, I gave a definition of dependent origination, which speaks to the causes of suffering and how they operate. And this, my Buddhist teacher, Dzogchen Khenpo Choga Rinpoche, a Tibetan Buddhist master, defined dependent origination as my present moment thinking is the reincarnation of my past moment thinking. My present moment thinking is the reincarnation of my past moment thinking. So essentially what that's saying is my experience in the present moment, my experience of joy, suffering, grief, happiness, all of that is based on my patterns of thinking in the past. And so, it's like that. So let me give a specific example in my own case. When I was in my early 50s, I started experiencing chronic anxiety, general anxiety, not due to some specific thing, loss of a loved one or loss of a job or something like that. It was just general anxiety. And so I saw a therapist, and she asserted to me, she said that, Daniel, your anxiety is based on negative self-talk. And furthermore, that negative self-talk can be identified. And if you identify it, you'll find that it is irrational. And it operates at almost an unconscious level. Let's call it a barely conscious level. And if you identify that negative self-talk, you can replace it with rational, positive self-talk, and thereby reduce your anxiety. So basically, she was teaching me the Buddha's teachings, even though I had been practicing Buddhism for quite a long time. When I started experiencing chronic anxiety, my consciousness, my ability to think just sort of became contracted, and I lost the capacity to really function and analyze in a normal way, for me anyway. So basically, she said that this was true. And then even more specifically, what I started examining, first of all, I accepted that what she said might be true. So I started analyzing my own barely conscious negative self-talk. And what I found was one pattern that was operating was that I lived in Idaho at the time, and I really didn't like the cold, and it was wintertime. And I realized that I just had this sort of fear of the cold from having, read books by Jack London, telling stories about men out in the wilderness in Alaska and dying or almost dying in the cold. And so sort of created this fear operating within me. And I wasn't really even aware of it. And so my negative self-talk in the wintertime was, and again, it's irrational, is I'm going to freeze to death. I'm really, really cold. I'm going to get hypothermia. And once I identified that, I said, oh, that's not true. That's irrational. So I replaced that with, I'm warm, I'm safe, and I'm comfortable. And it's true. I was in my house. I was in my office at work. I'm warm, I'm safe, and I'm comfortable. So what I did was I replaced my negative, irrational self-talk with positive, comforting self-talk. And so that's one example of where meditation was applied by me in a positive way to reduce my suffering. And specifically that's a specific case anyway. But to sort of expand that, it's what we're really saying, what my Buddhist teacher was saying and what the Buddha was saying is essentially that my patterns of thinking in the past have determined the way I experience the world now. So it's not just my analytical thinking. It's not just my self-talk. Basically, what we're saying is that my whole experience of the world is really determined by my patterns of thinking in this life and even in prior lives, if you believe in reincarnation. So what does that mean? We're talking about my perceptual experience. So my sense of taste, touch, sight, smell, my sense of hearing, all of this, how I interface with the external world, in addition to how my mind operates, my emotions, my wants, my aversions, all of that is my whole experience of the world. And that has all been determined by the sum total of my patterns of thinking in the past. And I gave you one example of how that can operate, but if you just sort of expand that to a large period of time, you can see how that can come to play. So what I'm saying with this, I'm not saying that, I'm not encouraging anyone to create a fantasy world. And actually, you can. I mean, it's actually possible. If you've seen the movie The Secret, it's true. It's true. I mean, you can create wealth, health, love, find a pretty husband or wife or boyfriend or girlfriend who is loving and accommodating. It can be done. I mean, it's true because our experience is determined by our patterns of thinking. But that's not the goal. I mean, that's not what the Buddha was after. And the reason being is because all of those things are impermanent. If I acquire wealth, I can lose that wealth. And even if I don't lose the wealth, I can continually worry that I'm going to lose the wealth. If I get a beautiful brand new car, sports car, I can get in a wreck. Even if I don't get in a wreck, I can be worried about getting in a wreck. So these things, that's not the point. And really, that's not what the Buddha was encouraging us to do. Essentially, what he was encouraging us to do is to recognize that our thinking patterns control our experience, but phenomena are still impermanent. So the point isn't to create phenomena in our life to satisfy our fantasies, because it's just not going to bring true happiness. It's not going to bring lasting happiness. And this is why the Buddha taught meditation, because he wanted us to have a practice where we could experience the truth that my natural state is peaceful. So if I'm not craving something or clinging to something, and if I'm not worrying about something that I hate and that I don't want, if I can just simply relax in the moment, I can experience peace. Why is that? Well, I assert, and the Buddha asserted, that our natural state is peace. It is tranquility. It is joy. Joy is a little bit problematic because, yeah, just the connotations of the word. But essentially, our natural state is peace. And so in meditation, we can experience that. So that's the goal. So let's try that right now. Let's try non-conceptual meditation. What's non-conceptual meditation? It simply means that I'm not grasping at a concept or a phenomena or a thing. I'm just going to rest in my natural state. So adopt a comfortable posture. You can sit on a cushion. You can sit on a chair. Back should be straight, but not rigid. Muscles should be relaxed and loose. And so we're not going to do anything with the breath in particular. Let the breath just do what it wants to do. You can leave your eyes open if you want, or close them. And we're just going to rest. Any thoughts, any feelings, they can arise, and then they can just pass. Arise, there it is, and then I let go. It's resting in my natural state, which is peace, serenity. In this moment, we are completely safe, completely safe. You don't want to hold your breath. Just make sure the breath is flowing naturally. And occasionally you can take a deep breath and then let it all out and then just rest. And so, as I've said in the past, if you're getting started in meditation, I recommend, and my teachers recommend, short meditation sessions so that you can have a positive experience. When you do meditation, you want to have a positive experience, so it's something that you want to do again, If it's too long and you start to get achy, then you won't want to do it anymore. Meditation is most beneficial if it's something that you can and will do on a daily basis. And then you can be confident and familiar in your own natural state. And the more that you have that experience just by resting in it, the more you realize going out and chasing phenomena is not going to bring happiness, and fighting against things that we really don't have any control over in the moment, at least in the moment, maybe in the long run, but not in the moment. That doesn't bring peace. So, and just one other thought that I wanted to share is that why are Buddhists always talking about suffering and the causes of suffering? Some people ask that question. And really the reason is that if you start talking about happiness, attaining happiness, then it becomes a concept that we're chasing, something that we're clinging to. And really, you can't create peace and serenity and happiness. You really can't create true and lasting peace and serenity. All you can do is remove the obstacles, the attachment and the aversion. All we can do is let go of those, relax them, and then just sort of settle into our natural state, which is peace, which is true and lasting happiness. So there it is. We don't chase happiness, we just relax and settle into happiness and peace. That's it for tonight. Thank you for listening.